Chaudhary, so maybe we can get started, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Shashwato, so let's
Yes,
start.
please. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the School of Natural, Applied and Social Sciences, the Language Laboratory, and the Center of Linguistics of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, University of Technology, we warmly welcome you to the afternoon session of the fourth day of our FDP, which is titled The Art and Craft of Scientific and Technical Writing from A to Almost Z, which we are conducting in association with the Islamic University of Science and Technology, Jammu and Kashmir. Before we move into the session, I would like to introduce our panelists for this session. We have the chairman of the FDP, Professor Dr. Shukhendu Samajdar, director of the School of Natural, Applied and Social Sciences, and professor in charge of the Language Laboratory. Dr. Joya Bandopadhyay, assistant professor in the Department of Biotechnology and member of the Advisory Council of the FDP.
Just a second, I think Professor Joya Bandopadhyay, Associate Professor, and she's the HOD of the biotech, okay? Apologies for the slip.
It's not a
Yes, sir.
problem.
Thanks for
sir.
the correction, sir.
Thanks for the correction, sir. My apologies to you, madam.
It's okay.
Professor Dr. Indranil Mukherjee, Director of the School of Management Sciences and member of the Advisory Council of the FDP. Dr. Shoham Mukherjee, Research Scientist from Uppsala University. Dr. Arijit Bagh, Associate Professor from the Department of Applied Sciences. Mr. Shushanto Koyal, Joint Coordinator and Faculty Member of the Center of Linguistics, and I am your moderator for this session, Shashwata Sengupta, Assistant Professor at the Center of Linguistics. This session is titled Assembling the Big Project Reports from Executive Summary to Annexure and Appendices will be chaired by Dr. Shaun Ray Chaudhary. Now I request Professor Dr. Joya Bandopadhyay to inaugurate the session and introduce our speaker before the participants. Madam, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. I am audible, I believe.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
you're audible.
Yes, okay. So before I get into the actual job of introducing Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhary, I would like to share a few of my experiences today morning. So Professor Shamajdar, he called me up, he made a call today and to let me know whether I would be free around 2:30. So I told him, sir, I have some things to complete, to finish up. So sir, if you could excuse me. He didn't tell me that for what reason he was actually wanting me to be there. And then he said, could you suggest any name who would know Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhary, because it's a session today and I would like the person to introduce the audience. And then I said, it's Shaun's lecture today. Shaun, you are here. I would like to share this. I said, who would be there other than me who would know her in this university as long as I would? Sir, I'm really happy. I do accept your offer and this invitation. I would be very glad to introduce and Shaun to the audience, to this August gathering. And this is how actually I am here now at this moment. And I thank Professor Shamazda taking all the trouble to organize this FDP. And this is definitely is going to be a new experience for all of us not only the faculties, I think even the senior years students of the PhD, I think even master students are also there. And the organizers of this entire show, I would rather say, is the School of Natural and Applied and Social Sciences, and along with the Language Lab and the Center for Linguistics, and also the Islamic University. I am thankful that I am here today to share my few words about Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhuri and this title, this Art and Craft of Scientific and Technical Writing from A to almost Z. This is a wonderful, wonderful FDP. I think Dr. Shamazdar and his entire team has formulated. And also, I also thank Professor Indranil Mukherjee to take all the trouble to be a steering partner of this entire show. So with these few words, I would now would like to share and speak about Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhuri, to introduce her. It's a real honor for me, and I'm really glad that that I am here today to introduce Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhuri. I would be comfortable calling her Shaun, but since this is a very formal platform, I would continue with addressing her Dr. Rai Chaudhuri. So as you all have gone through the abstract book, and you all know that everything about Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhuri, her professional accomplishments all through. So she has been actually, as you all know, she had completed her PhD from the University of Calcutta. And then after that, she joined this university, West Bengal University of Technology. That time the name was, now it is Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, West Bengal. So Shaun was in the first group of the faculties who joined immediately after she completed her PhD, went through the postdocs, and she was also an independent scientist as a DST fast track scientist, as you all have seen. Then she joined in 2004 to our university, and then in the Department of Biotechnology. So she is more of a friend than an ex-colleague. Actually, they had been my pillars, because I was all alone in that, taking care of the department. And with Dr. Rai Chaudhuri and the entire team of the biotechnology, and needless to say that she has been a steer leader in a way for our department, with all the blessings and the guidance of her mentor, Professor Ashok Ranjan Thakur. So I think she is blessed with having such wonderful mentors, and also Dr. Professor Indranil Mukherjee as her collaborator and professional and in a personal way. So after she joined our university, I have been really amazed to see Dr. Rai Chaudhuri being so active in research. And exactly for that reason, she's here today to illuminate all of us with her accomplishments, the ways she has been taking her life, her professional life, and her journey she will share with all the accolades and the laurels that she brought to the university. I'm really proud that she was once associated almost like 5 years she has been now with the university, the Tripura University. And to her credit, I must say that university is really grateful to her, because she has been actively involved with research. She has 5 technologies to her credit, what I can see. And then international patents, 5 international patents, not a joke, and 2 already Indian patents awarded to her credit, and already 14 filed patents. So you see, I would like to add this to all the young faculties who are today taking part as in this August gathering, that you will be amazed to have such faculties of a university. I'm not talking about scientists from research institutes, faculties from universities, such young and dynamic, so much into research. And she had number of projects, And these patents and projects had brought in a lot of fame to our department in West Bengal University of Technology. So we are really grateful to her. Thank you so much, Shaun, that you have made this, you have taken out your precious time and joined this university for this faculty development program, because your experience and your all these achievements will definitely help the young faculties who are actually taking this program and as a part of the audience. And the most important and the most significant achievement that she had earned was that she earned this 16th position in the DST Lockheed Martin Indian Innovation Growth Program way back in 2014, and that was a great achievement for the university and for her as well. And also the most commendable achievement that she had was the President's Award in Technology category in 2019. So I'm also very glad that I have been associated with her. Dr. Rai Chaudhary had been a very encouraging faculty in our department. Believe me, all audience, everybody today at the other side, she didn't have any problem in taking up a project and executing it. We had a lot of questions in our mind whether we will be able to do it or not. For her, she was such a hard worker, and research is the first word, I think, when she wakes up in the morning, and research is the last word when she goes to sleep. I doubt whether she has good sleep also or not. She has a number of published papers and many book chapters. I think there are more to talk about her, but I think I will not keep you held up with my words. I got a bit emotional because after a long time I have been here with you, Dr. Rai Chaudhary. So with these few words, I thank the organizers to welcome me and be a part of this introduction ceremony and today's session. And thank you, Professor Shamazdar and Dr. Indranil Mukherjee, with all the efforts that you have put in to make this FDP a successful one. So now I hand over to Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhary, and please, the stage is yours, and please do the honors. And before that, I would like to mention that the topic that she is going to talk today is assembling the big project reports from executive summary to annexure and appendices. I think this is a wonderful topic that you have selected, Dr. Rai Chaudhary, and I will expect that it would be a very interactive session with all the audience, because if it is so, then it will really steer the young minds how they can actually approach and formulate a project for funding. There are so many problems in our country for getting a funded project, but I think your lecture today will make things easier for them. So welcome once again, Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhary, and take up this stage now. It's all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bandyopadhyay, and thank you, Professor Shamazdar, for giving me this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be back to where I started my professional life, my career as a teacher. It makes all the difference. And still now, I think I'm a part of that university, because though I can relate myself more to the Salt Lake campus than the Horinkata campus, but nevertheless, I still am mentally associated with MAKAUT. No second thoughts about it. And as far as selecting this topic is concerned, that's Professor Shamazdar who suggested that we could go for this. And that's where we decided, and this big is not big in the sense of a large project. It is big in the sense of the Biotechnology Ignition Grant. So we'll just get started with the presentation. I hope the screen is there with you.
Yes, ma'am, it is easy.
Okay. So we are going to talk about assembling the big project reports. So before we go into the reports, I thought the major emphasis here would be writing the grant. That's more important, and that's what makes it different especially the biotechnology ignition grant from the other R&D projects, and exactly how is it different and what additional things do we need to keep in mind, which perhaps now I understand better being one of the reviewers in the committee instead of when I was writing as a individual candidate for a big project. But believe me, getting a big and handling a big project makes a world of difference. Now, big, as I said, it stands for Biotechnology Ignition Grant, and these kind of projects were launched about in 2012 by BIRAC. It was meant to be a startup funding program of BIRAC to support research projects that aim to establish and validate the proof of concept of a innovative idea. It is not a routine project that one would go through. It has to be something which is promising, which is innovative, which has the potential of being commercialized. Only those kind of projects could be picked up or usually are funded by big. And the aim of these projects is basically promoting novel cutting edge ideas that are market driven and they have a strong societal impact. Normally the funding is a 50 lakhs, not bad, but the time duration is as short as 18 months. So from here you can easily understand that what one has to apply for here is something which has already been tested. Though they say it's a proof of concept, but you have to have sufficient or a validation of proof of concept that would happen through a big funding, but you have to have sufficient data generated which says that you have the expertise and you have the lead or a promising idea which could actually be ready to reach the market in about 20 to 25 months. So 18 months of the project period and the rest, that also needs to be planned here. Anyone can apply, a student can apply, and an academician can apply, a scientist, a clinician, a researcher, anyone can apply either as an individual or as a team. Though whenever we are talking about any idea which would actually lead to a product, often it's multidisciplinary. So it is preferred that there is a team with a project leader, and the team should be so selected that you have people with complementary skills so that it becomes a holistic project. And even the startups, biotech startups can be, apply for it as long as they are less than 5 years old. Now, the typical area where big fundings are encouraged or which receive the big funding are basically agriculture, healthcare, be it devices or diagnostics, drugs and vaccines, industrial biotechnology, bioenergy, waste management, nutraceuticals, bioinformatics, some of them, but the major area in which these kind of fundings are provided. Now, what exactly would a reviewer look for or the granting agency look for in the project in order to grant it the big funding? So BIRAC encourages entrepreneurs and innovators with the best idea or technologies or solutions at the ideation stage that are novel, that are market driven, and that have societal impact. All these three are extremely essential. It is not meant for basic or exploratory research like the conventional R&D projects which do not or may not have a commercial potential or a novelty. And of course, as you can understand, it's a 18 months funding, and so it is not meant for sustaining PhD research. Now, one has to apply online for these kind of funding through the BIRAC site, and the criteria based on which the evaluation is done is basically, these are the 5 criterion. That's the technical feasibility, the novelty, the potential impact of your solution on the society or in the commercial world, and the team credibility, whether at all you have the complete set of people that is required to start with the scientific development or the technology development till the market ready situation where you commercialize it. And finally, whether the team or the individual has a clarity of go-to-market strategy. What is the business model? What would be the approach? Is it a B2B or a B2C approach in terms of the market strategy that is concerned? We'll get to the details of it gradually. Now, this is somewhere a difference between, another difference between an R&D project and a big funding. I forgot to mention something very important, that unlike the conventional R&D fundings that we get from the different granting agency, the advantage in big funding is we do not have to take any hassle of the administrative structure of an organization, because 18 months means you really have to be on your toes for those 18 months with technical reports sent every 3 months. There we can't be waiting for the orders to be processed or the payment to be made where the vendors are no longer interested in giving us material. So here, when one applies for it, the organization has to give a NOC that the fund comes in a separate account, which would be handled only and only by the PI and no one else. And it is the responsibility of the principal investigator or the investigator here, the applicant, to not only provide the technical report, but also the financial report. That is, every 3 months, these review process takes place. Now, that is a major advantage, especially for people like us who are working in universities, who understand very well the hurdles that one has to face in spending more time with the administration instead of with the scientific or the technical team. That is what we need to be doing in case of a scientific research. Now, here, as I was getting back to big, the important part here is, an important element is the design and implementation of the big project. And there, the key role is played by a partnership. So it's a partnership mode of function. What is this partnership? The applicant has to choose a big partner when one is applying for the funding, the online application. Now, big partner, there are 5 selected big partners which Government of India has identified, and you have to get incubated with, provided you have to select one of them as your partner. Now, when you select them, it is not that you are at random saying that, okay, this is my partner. You have to get in touch with your partner before you apply for the project, and they would give you a letter of intent stating that they agree to have you as an incubatee if you get the BIRAC funding. This can be a virtual incubation. This could also be practically incubated there, where they already have a proper setup of a technology business incubator, and your team who would be working on this project can be stationed there while they are working on it. For us, when I worked on a big project, which really made a lot of difference to my academic career and my group's achievement, we were incubated with KIT TBI. So from my personal experience, I can tell you that the big partner selection is a very crucial and a critical thing for applying for a big project. Recently, we had a webinar where many of us who had completed their big projects and had formed startups were asked to talk about it. And then when I realized that there were people from different, big partners, innovators who had been associated with different big partners. And at that point of time, I realized further what actually the KIT TBI where I was associated, what difference it makes to us. It starts with reviewing your proposal prior to its submission, fine-tuning it further once you have submitted, and if it is scrutinized and it comes back for a presentation, then they would be again training you further, because we academicians are very used to talking at length, and we tend to get carried and we tend to talk about what we have done, our invention or our innovation. But here, it's a time-bound process, an 8-minute presentation with precisely the points given which you can delve on, and also exactly how much time you can give on each. So the crux of the problem here is that you need to know exactly how much to emphasize and what to emphasize and what not to emphasize. That makes a lot of difference for grants like this. So here, it's not only getting the proposal, getting the project, but even after you've got the project, there are a lot of other things that includes the reviewing, the mentorship, and getting the right kind of tie-up with the venture capitalists or with the mentors so that you have a clear understanding of what kind of clearances and government regulations your particular product would need to go through before it can come to the market. In addition, they, as I said, they provide you mentoring, they provide you networking, and also help you in getting further grants, provided you can successfully complete your big project as you had proposed. Now, if we look at the selection process, the initial eligibility, whether you are eligible for applying for a big, is something that your big partner would check and they would let you know. Then the proposal, which again they would help you refine, goes and it gets submitted with the letter of intent from the big partner. And finally, there is a blind review that takes place. After this review, if one clears the review, then one gets into the presentation, which is the technical evaluation presentation. That's the TEP. After the technical evaluation presentation, though based on the score that is obtained from the review and the TEP, this proposal goes to the expert selection committee and they finally approve some of the projects, the top ones, for funding for each year. Now, this was about the process and the reviewing and the importance of a big partner for these kind of projects. But now let's get into more into the essentials, the key factors that we have to keep in mind when we are writing grants of this kind, and especially now since there are multiple grants which are there mostly to promote entrepreneurship and innovation. So most of them are of this particular pattern. Well, the stringent condition of selection might vary from grant to grant, but more or less the pattern is similar. So the fundamental here, the grant is not an idea, it is a plan. And you control the decision by executing or putting your plan in such a manner based on the preliminary work that you have already done, preferably with something which is an innovation or an invention that has patentable potential. So now, if we talk about a rule book for grant seekers, especially the big grant seekers, first, do not write application for yourself. And that's something which only you can understand and the rest can't. Do not write the application for scientists or the specialists, because every reviewer or in the expert committee may not be an expert in your line. So what is important is you must convince the entire reviewer committee and the funding agency that what you are writing is worth funding. It has a potential which meets the unmet need. So that should be clearly reflected. Reviewers do not read your application because they want to. They do it because they have to do it. So you have to ensure that you can attract their attention, you can catch their attention so that they would put more interest, more emphasis when they go through your proposal. Now, reviewer can't read your mind, so that unless you clearly spell it out, they wouldn't know what additional things you have or the speciality of your project, which makes it quite different from others. So if you don't tell them, they will not know what you intend to say. So you have to be precise about what is the difference, what are the problems in that particular area, what is the solution that you're offering, and how is it different, properly quantified from the existing solution in the market. Reviewers are never wrong. They are never right. Reviewers simply provide an assessment of the material that you provide in the application. So how you put up the details in the application makes all the difference. And that is where, again, as a third party, the big partner plays a significant role. A reviewer's feedback comments are never about you as a person. The comments are about the information provided in your application and the way in which you provide them. This is important because often when you are called for the presentation at the TP, you would have to address the reviewer's comments. Only if the reviewers' comments total together, the 5 reviewers, you receive a certain score or above that, then only you are allowed to present in this, before this technical evaluation panel. So often there, we will come to that later, there are comments by the reviewers which you have to address, and hence do not take it personally, but try to improvise. And often it makes a lot of difference because you have an idea from an expert in the field from the other side, which perhaps you as an inventor had missed out. And often, like a paper when it gets reviewed, often the reviewer adds on a lot or brings about quite a few points which you can, if you can address, it makes the paper more complete. Similarly, here again, the project would become more foolproof. So the chances of it succeeding into a product by the end of 18 months is much higher. Now, next thing, a team. The team is very important. And here, it should not be a team of people with similar skills. Preferably, it should be people who are having different skill sets, so that, and these are skill sets which are required for the complete functioning or for the complete success of the product that you're talking about or the system that you're talking about. However, it is not just the scientific competence that you have to keep in mind. This, as a person who has completed a big project, who has formed the second startup herself and the first startup of Tripura University, can tell you. Another important team aspect of team building is that you have to have like-minded people. Scientific skill on one part, which is very important for the execution of the project, but big projects are expected to lead to formation of a startup. And so in order for success of the startup, it is very essential that you have like-minded people, those who have the same goal. Then always contact the big partner before you submit your application. This is not just for the letter of intent, but also in order to ensure that you can share with them what is your idea, what is the solution, what is the gap that you've identified, what is your solution. And once you can share with them, this is the solution I'm offering, often it happens that they might have an expertise in the area, or they might even add to it in such a manner that you can improvise on it and add certain other components for which they have an expertise or they have the mentors available, and that makes it even more complete. And that is what increases your chance of getting a big funding, and not only getting one, but completing it successfully. So give yourself and the staffer enough time to work together so that you can develop the project. It should not be something that you have to do overnight and you go ahead. Because if you are serious about it and you are ready to take that extra mile, because it's a lot of effort to be put in. So hence, let's do it completely. And that is where you need the time, and so does the big partner, in order to ensure that a rounded proposal can be submitted. Now, getting back to the structure of a big application, what all does one needs to put in here? A title of a proposal summary, objective and the proposed approach, the team, the novelty, opportunity, challenges or risk factors associated, preliminary work done, though I mentioned it earlier also, Though we say that it is a proof of concept development, of course it is. If you have everything ready, you can't go for a big funding. But nevertheless, it's more than just an idea which you want to test. So you have to have preliminary work which is done scientifically and which you can explain properly. And of course, future plan of commercialization, the intellectual property, preferences, and budget, which needs to be justified again. For a proper, you have to give the proper reasoning for why you want, because remember, this is something where they give you the fund and you are the sole person who decides on what to buy, what to use, what tender call to be floated for the purchases that you have to make. So since these are the additional factors or the benefits that you have, there is a critical review of each aspect, including the budget. Now, writing the proposal, we get into the title of the proposal. It is very important. And that is something which should be, it should be a catchy title. Be creative, but be concise. So it should not include keywords that clearly convey that the project is about something. Not like that. It is often used to assign, the title is used to assign the reviewer group. So that should actually highlight the novelty or the impact of the work, such as the novel, cost-effective, user-friendly, eco-friendly. So these things should be there, and avoid using analysis, study, understanding, those kind of words. So a good title is a clearly written proof of concept statement, which would be highlighting the advantages, the unique selling points of the solution that you are proposing. So at a glance, the granting agency knows what is it about so that they can assign it to the right kind of reviewer, and the reviewer also knows what exactly he or she would be looking at in the proposal. Now, proposal summary. So define your project in the proposal summary. So the proposal summary is equivalent to an abstract of a research paper. So it should not be too wordy or should not be too technical. It should be able to stand alone, where a reviewer on reading it should be able to get a clear idea of what you plan to do, the objective of the work. Convinced that you understand the need and can help the market to solve the problem for which the solution you're offering. So use the relevant figures or statistics to convince them that there is an unmet need, because unless there is a market unmet need, there wouldn't be a solution that you would be offering for a commercially viable proposal. Tell your story and build your case, drawing to a logical conclusion what finally you expect to achieve from it. So that is what should be there in the summary. Now, do not make the problem sound too large or too ambitious to be solved in this 15 lakhs money within 18 months. Rather, pinpoint the focused problem that you're trying to solve. For instance, if you're developing a technique to detect cancer, you should not waste time talking about how many people are suffering from cancer and showing the cancer statistics. Rather, your focus should be on the problem, that is the challenge in the currently used technique for cancer diagnostics. And what is that you want to improve upon, which would make cancer detection process even better. So these are some of the very critical things, simple but essential things that we need to keep in mind when we address such precise problems, or when we are writing such precise projects where we have to be very focused and in very few words we have to put in the essence that actually the funding agency is looking for. So the problem in the current process, the product, the technique is an opportunity for you. So the problems, the currently available product, which cannot address this problem, and the technique that you can develop which would address these problems. These are your opportunity and you should pick them up. Now, if in your proposal summary, you need to highlight the uniqueness, the advantages, and the economic benefits. That is very essential, because these are some of the criteria based on which the proposal would be reviewed, and because after all, these decide how the product would, to a certain extent, these decide how the product would do in the market. So the uniqueness, you need to show the distinct difference between your invention and the prior art, that is the alternatives that are already available. Advantages, and then how these differences which you are going to create are creating functional improvement, which includes your advantages like better performance, low cost, faster process, more efficient or effective, user-friendly, or new capabilities that would be added. And finally, how these attributes translate into economic benefit. So quantify benefits wherever it is possible. We are going to see some examples. Have a look at this. This is the SAVE appliance, an innovative device for correcting skeletal muscle 3 malocclusion. So look at the project proposal, development of a novel intraoral device for correction of skeletal class 3 malocclusion. Simple, that explains it is novel, the purpose for which it is there, what is the problem that it is addressing with an image. Now, the clinical problem, that the deficient and the backwardly placed maxilla, there is speech, mastication, and aesthetically compromised. So this is the problem that you're addressing. And what is the proposed solution which is not available? This is intraoral device for correcting this problem more efficiently and in a shorter duration. Remember, till now what is available here is usually surgery-based operation and the surgery-based treatment of these kind of things. So now you're talking about something which is a device that could be put in. We'll see another example. So it's a ragi-based ready-to-serve food for pediatric nutrition. So the proposal, the title when you give, formulation of a special type of baby food for different age groups using ragi as prime substrate in a comparatively affordable price. So you're talking about what it is composed of, where exactly it finds its use, its composition, and what makes it different from the others. The problem statement, which we're going to come to later, is high rate of malnutrition and diarrhea among children of rural setting, and the proposal is a novel baby complementary formulation with adequate calorie and nutrition. So that's how the title has to be catchy, and it should have all the relevant information to ensure that the reviewer would be interested in looking into it further. Now, again, yet another example of how you could actually put in some kind of a statistics in terms of a picture to represent, especially when you're going for a presentation, and the solution is food fortification. Here, you're not writing the problem, but the problem actually you are, along with the statement, you are putting in the statistical data to reflect that exactly this is the market, this is the scale of the market this particular product would be addressing. Here again, one option where you can talk about, this is about a process whereby the dairy wastewater treatment, where the others which shows the conventional process, it generates the amount of CO2 equivalent gas emission that takes place annually. And when the current technology that is proposed, there would be a 89.94% decrease in the CO2 equivalent emission. So when you're talking about the initial one, what you have to do is just provide the figures for the conventionally available system, and what you propose is to reduce it down. Again, space, which is an extremely expensive, the cost of land is going up. So when you say that your process can save in terms of the land use by 75%, that itself explains that your system that you're going to develop is going to be a more compact one, and hence person who adopts it saves in terms of the land revenue. Another way of looking at it or showing it is here. If you look at the biotreatment plant cost, conventional system, one has to actually spend the amount shown in the red color, and if the price can be brought down to as low as what is shown in the blue color, so that is also a way in which you can represent your data. Now from there, the next step, what you have to add is a concept note. Now explain, here you get a chance to explain in further details what you have done, but nevertheless, there is a limit beyond which you cannot go, and you need to know exactly what you need to put in here. Explain more in details about the underpinning technology and the working principle. So what is the invention exactly that you're trying to talk about here, and how does it work? So visuals to show that how your final product or the alpha prototype would look like. The image of the product could be placed here, and in the diagram itself, you can highlight the inventive features of the proposed concept. And remember, if you develop any diagnostic device, then you need to mention as well to how to ensure how you are taking care of the safety issues that are associated with the diagnostic devices, and if at all they are user-friendly and affordability of the product. These are the points that you need to highlight. All experts sign the non-disclosure agreement, so don't worry. Preferably go in for a provisional filing of your work before you apply for a bid, and then you don't have to worry. Nobody is going to talk about it outside. So your solution or your technology is absolutely safe. You do not have to worry about that. Now explain the underlying technology, the working principle of the proposed concept in details in the concept note. The safety issue, user-friendly, affordability of the product, and please provide all details like the experimental condition in which it has been tested, the temperature, the pH, the material that you have used, if there are animal models, and how would you check the sensitivity and specificity, all the details. They are absolutely essential, because when you are getting a grant from BIRAC or a big grant, they need to ensure that your background information is good enough and it is ready for its proof of concept and scientifically well understood to get into the market. Now, then you come to the preliminary work that you have done. Very important. Though they say it's I'm again repeating it for the third time, it's a validation or the POC, proof of concept. Nevertheless, remember, you have to have substantial amount of the data. May not be too much, but you should have a very clean data which has a clear-cut indication of the potential of the technology or the device or the process that you're developing. So any lab testing evidence, publications, supporting evidences, backup data to indicate the technical feasibility and a sense to the reviewer that the idea is doable. Now, your proposal should clearly state at what stage your project is now. Is it at the ideation stage, or have you done a bit of preliminary experiment and got some positive result to corroborate the technical feasibility of your proposed work? So give the literature validation. Remember, ideation stage, of course, they say it is at ideation stage one applies for it, but nevertheless, if you look at the proposals that have gone through, which have been screened in, which have got the funding, you have preliminary experiments done with a positive result obtained, which shows that yes, it is doable. There is a scope for this to get into a product, and that is where, that is of course one of the criteria which one would look into, the technical feasibility based on your preliminary experiments, which decide on whether the grant would be given or not. So if you are developing a device or a diagnostic platform, please mention that you have done a thorough clinical immersion and have spoken to many doctors, patients to understand the need statement. So that's very essential. You have to have a thorough survey done to understand or identify the problem, because without that, you cannot be talking about a solution unless, well, you can talk about a solution even if it's a problem of about 1% or 0.5% of the population. Nevertheless, most of the granting agency and even the commercial entities or the industry would not be interested in picking up a 0.1% solution for 0.1% of the population. The larger the population it serves, the better is the chances of it succeeding in the market. And hence, when you see that there is a potential need, substantial need, which would be only through talking to, if it's a clinical device, talking to doctors, patients, and then you have to see that there is a substantial need or a market demand for this kind of a technology. Then the next thing is the team. As I mentioned earlier, so BIRAC encourages that you apply as a team. There would be one principal investigator, but there could be other mentors, business advisors, and team members. So your team should be well-rounded with people from competing skill sets. Say, for example, if you are developing a device, you should include a biodesign engineer person and a clinician in your team if it's a medical device. You are also suggested to include the hospital names, the industry partners with whom you might collaborate. For example, hospitals that are ready to give patient samples for trials and validation, or industries who would help you in the pilot scale manufacturing, etc. If your project includes fabrication, then you should have an idea of the company or the people to reach out for fabrication. Preferably, provide the letter of support or the letter of intent from these collaborators. Also try to include business mentor or the marketing person who would help you to commercialize your product. It should reflect to the committee that your team has both the technical skill as well as the business mentor to take the project forward in the right direction. Remember, developing a product in the lab may not be too much of an issue for the scientists, but nevertheless, ensuring that that moves from the lab to the commercial market, that's a big job. And there you have less to do with the technical skills and you have more to do with the marketing skills. Hence, a proper team makes a lot of difference. Again, for big projects, it should not be a mix and match. Innovation, as they define it now, is anything which was even used at a different scale, you make it a smaller one, you combine multiple things, but that's not novelty. So here what you want is an invention people are looking at, which can be protected through intellectual property protection, that is through patenting. So you have to have an innovative element where the advantages should be clearly spelled out and what portion of the product can be attributed to the novelty. That is the product enabling value, which tells that, okay, this is new, this is novel, this is a patentable component. How is it better than your competitor? What will make you different as compared to similar kind of products or products addressing the similar problem that are available in the market? Now, it's not just saying we are better. You have to actually quantify how it is better. So a chart like this, which tells you, okay, your prototype, you see the cost is given. That is one part, but there should be other factors as well. So you have multiple parameters based on which you try to quantify. So it's quantify the attributes and don't just put random values. You need to have evidence for what you claim. For example, better performance, low cost, faster. So how fast? More efficient or effective, and new capabilities. Remember, different is not usually sufficient. How different? That quantification is essential. So you need superiority and quantify performance superiority if possible, wherever it is possible, try to put in there. We'll have a look at this. This particular technology which we are talking about is one which is for the dairy wastewater conversion into a liquid biofertilizer. Look at the conventional versus the current technology. So there you can quantify them based on multiple criteria, multiple parameters. So it is 1 or 2 step versus a 7-step process. That's a 7 to 8 step process. So you save in terms of land. A 16 hours versus a 120 hours, so 7.5 times faster. You save in terms of time. Energy consumption, 3.6 kilowatt for a 500 meter cube per day processing capacity as compared to a 70 kilowatt. So it is just 10% or less than 10% of the energy that is required. In the conventional system, there's a lot of water that is discharged. Here, in the current technology, the entire water is the liquid biofertilizer, which totally replaces use of chemical fertilizer and fresh water for agriculture. And hence, there is no water which is discharged or thrown off. You save fresh water and keep it for drinking. You do not allow unutilized chemical fertilizer to be leached out. So you save the environment from getting polluted, which normally happens when a chemical fertilizer based agricultural practice is followed. Moreover, a zero discharge technology, and there is a value added product which is generated, which sustains agriculture. And unlike organic fertilizer or organic farming or biofertilizers, which are available in the market, here what you see is that there is an increase in production as compared to a chemical fertilizer based cultivation. So it is more than the chemical fertilizer. So this is how you need to quantify to tell the reviewers and the team, yes, this is what we have to offer. This is what we are capable of offering. And that is why the scale up is what we have to do for the proof of concept. Now, then you get to the opportunity. Why should you be getting this funding? Why? Because you have something new to offer, something which is a missing factor, which is not there. So outcome would be, what will be the project contribute to the community? So what would be the contribution of your project? How would it add to the community's benefit? So what will be the utility of your product, whether it has health benefit, economic benefit, environmental benefit. Like the one you saw just before the slide, it had both economic benefit as well as environmental benefit. So clearly and briefly state the importance of the problem being addressed and the potential impact if it is solved. So for example, if you are building a diagnostic kit to identify prostate cancer, then the opportunity is the number of patients suffering from the disease in India and globally. So the statistics, that is the opportunity. Also, how the diagnostic kit is better than the similar kits which are already available in the market. So if your idea is to develop a platform technology, then mention possible application in other fields or in or its integration into other existing or envisaged products. Feasibility. Important points to highlight that the idea that you are proposing is doable. And the parameters that have been optimized, the sensitivity, specificity analysis done, it is non-toxic. The material are readily available and already proven technology at the lab scale. Team is well-rounded and has the expertise to execute the work. And ethical clearance have already been obtained. And we have spoken to so many hospitals for the patient trial, etc. So all these details, if they are readily available, so the reviewer knows you have done the homework and you're now all set to go ahead. Again, the feasibility, so you have to have the ease to manufacture and highly scalable process, and it's easy distribution through pharmacy and clinician. So all these options that you've already thought of, that if the product is ready, how to go to the market, you have a clear idea, and that's exactly what you have to emphasize and you have to mention to the others. Now, synthesis, again, the design is simple, can be replicated, can be produced in large scale. It is not an expensive equipment that is required to produce it, and scale up to automation, and automation is feasible. So these are what normally one expects for a medical device-based feasibility study. Next very important criteria is the challenges or the risk factors. Now, what are these risks? Identify the risk involved. That is very important. What are the risks associated with the project? Could be the data collection and the analysis. Could be that the sample size that you would get is so small that you can't really be talking about a population from that size. There could be social problems. There could be seasonal issue as far as the performance of your reactor is concerned. So an innovator, as an innovator, you should be able to foresee the major risks that stand between you and your objective. This is where you should mention, however, in brief, do not exaggerate. Then a doubt comes that if at all you would be able to do. So the reviewer should know that you know that a problem exists, but again, you need to also have a solution. So what are the mitigating plans or the alternative backup strategies for overcoming these risks? This is something you need to understand. Getting to the IP strategy, state the prior patents which are already there in this field. And if you have a provisional patent, nothing like it. And that is very important. And you have to mention in the application, if you have it, and tell what it is all about very briefly. But this shows that we are talking or we are looking at an innovative research or at an invention. So the chances or the freedom to operate would be more if it is a patentable or a patentable component or a technology, provided you are not infringing in others' patent rights. So do a thorough patent analysis to understand which innovative component of your project has scope for patent filing. Will you do a design patent, or will you do a product patent, or it would be a process patent? So you need to have a clear understanding about this, and that is again where your big partner can help you tie up with the right IP attorney firm. So, and you get the funding for further complete filing from the big funding if it is approved. So do a thorough patent search and a freedom to operate analysis. That is, whether at all you're impinging on someone else's filed patent. So you need to know how much of freedom do you have in terms of your solution that you have developed. More important, whenever you apply for a big funding, your organization gives you a clearance, which means that who owns the patent. If it is the organization who owns the patent, automatically there would be other set of rules or conditions that would guide it. So one needs to have a clear understanding and mention it there that who owns the IP for this, the technology that you're talking about. Plan for commercialization, so the business model, how to make money by selling your product developed as a result of the big funding. So what is the market relevance? Say, for example, an antimicrobial or an antioxidant packaging, shelf life, the manufacture cost, if it is low, strong, elastic, water resistant, biodegradable. So you need to know why or what is the market and how relevant would your additional property make the product as compared to what is there in the market. So what could be the different market applications, the market size, if you have a statistical data, and what will be sold. Clearly mention that. What are you selling? Is your innovation a standalone product, or could it be segregated into different components which could be commercialized as distinct entities? That is also very clear. Identify the customer base and describe your sales strategy, whether it would be a business to business or a business to client model that you would be adopting. And of course, the cost economics. What exactly would be the cost of the product when you come to it? An example, the dairy industry process for converting the dairy wastewater into a liquid biofertilizer. So the size of the client size. So we look into the beachhead market. That's exactly the Indian scenario in our case. So how many roughly we have? 820 units, or the Indian dairy market, 820 units, or the dairy farms which have the effluent treatment plant, who could be the potential customers for this kind of system or a biotreatment plant. And then the global market, how much it is, and try to put it in terms of the price of your product and what is the market size in terms of here. This was meant for an audience in Netherlands, and so it's put in USD, but nevertheless, it could be in INR as well. So you have to know the market. Who are the, if it is it just the dairy farms, or it could also be other people who would pick it up? Could it be the hydroponics? So you have to have a clear idea about as a total component or as parts of it. Is it always a big reactor that has to be put into a dairy effluent treatment plant, or it could also be smaller units customized, which could be put, which could be placed with the cowshed owners or the milk pens who have their own small cattle sheds, and where they are actually selling these milks to the larger dairies, and then they have their tanks to be washed and what comes out, so that that directly doesn't go to the environment and pollute it, whereas they can actually generate their own biofertilizer at a smaller scale. Now, hydroponics, they themselves, these people could also be using this kind of system as well. So you need to understand the bigger markets, the smaller markets, and the national and the global scenario. Then what big requires is a roadmap. So here, this is your entire product development pipeline that you need to discuss. There are 3 stages of it: pre-BIRAC funding, during the BIRAC or the big funding, and the post big funding. So pre-big funding, what you say is what work you have already done. Clearly state at what stage your product is now at that point of time. During the big funding, which is the 18 months, here you would specify what are the further activities or objectives that would be conducted, and what would be the stage or the form of the product at the end of the 18 months. And finally, post-big funding, so the remaining steps that is needed after big grant for bringing to the market. Here you need to specify any regulatory compliance that needs to be fulfilled or the follow-up grant. So if you are an individual applicant, you need to clearly highlight that currently you are in the process of forming, if you are forming a startup, and probably within a month, all the formalities would be completed. Again, it is before the big is completed that it is expected that you form the startup anytime within this 18 months. And the committee might like to know from you whether your institution promotes faculty entrepreneurship or not. Here, what is important is, in case you are not willing to form a startup after this 18 months, then the equipments and the materials that you purchase, mostly the equipments, the non-recurrent material, that is supposed to go back to the big partner if they so desire, because then that would be their product. But if you form a startup, all these components belong to the startup thereafter. So that is it. And then what is there is the objective and the milestone slides, where the objective, the core experiments that have to be put in, and the milestone where you are quantifiable results that you are envisaging for each objective. Under the approach, the methodology has to be given. So basically the timeline and work plan, where you have to divide these 18 months into slot, and for each one you have a precise objective, which at the end of each quarter you would say, okay, whether you have achieved it or not. So the total thing, divide it into the quarters, and that is how one goes ahead with assessing. The roadmap for 4 years. So it's not only the big funding, but thereafter for equivalent period, how exactly this would come gradually, but whether at all you have an idea, whereby you need to understand what are the regulatory clearances that would be required, the marketing, commercialization, the fundraising, and of course the big partner is an immense help, and the mentors and the mentoring session that they have, which helps you a lot in understanding, refining your idea, refining your proposal, even while the project is on for the review purpose. Now, budget, as I said, the 50 lakhs, normally the distribution is this. A small hint or suggestion to all of you here. We know that often when we are incubated at a different place and we are working somewhere else, we need a lot of travel funding. However, please do not put in more than this 1 lakh for your travel to start with, if required, and do not put more than 15 lakhs for the equipment. If required, you can always go in for a reallocation of fund. That's not too much of a problem, provided you have a valid justification and you have been able to achieve what you had committed during the grant application. So stick to this, because if you change it beyond the limit, the chances are that you're going to lose the amount of grant. Whereas keep it this way. If required during the progress of the project, you can of course apply for a reallocation. Now, if your preliminary screening is done and you have been called for the TEP presentation, so the pitch deck that you have to prepare. Remember, 8 minutes is all you have and you have to be very precise. Here again, these are the points which you have to highlight. They would give you a template of slide. You don't have to do anything beyond that. Most of it we have already covered. We'll just brush up. Title, very precise, simple, focused, and something which is memorable. This slide, title slide, should contain the title of the project proposal that you have mentioned in the application, along with the reference number, the PI name, the big reference number that you would get, and also the big partner in a small text, but you have to mention that. Speak in simple words. What exactly is your proof of concept? Like what you want to build, along with the core features of the product linked to its benefits and its market relevance. Try to frame a clearly written proof of concept statement, highlighting the advantages or the unique selling features, points. Now, you should not exceed more than 30 seconds on your title slide. That's the difference. For each step, you know precisely how much. So, what is to be there in the title slide? How much of time can you spend here? One example. We saw it earlier also. This is a title slide, which clearly tells an image, what is the problem that you are addressing, what is the proposed solution, and the name. Put in the reference number and the details. Again, we saw it earlier. This again, we saw it earlier. So it's catchy. People would remember that. Problem or the opportunity. Give a brief background that there is a real problem which your project is addressing. So use the relevant figures or statistics to convince them that there is an unmet need. Like the third slide that we saw on the malnutrition. Do not make the problem sound too large or over obvious to be solved with this 50 lakhs of money. Rather pinpoint and focus the problem that you are trying to solve. Like in the writing, here again, you have to be very precise. You can give figures which shows, okay, the current existing technologies, these are there, but these are problems. So what I offer is my solution is different. So what is it different? Discuss the solution for the problem that you have mentioned in your problem slide. An image would often have a better impact than words. So what is the invention exactly? How does it work? Visuals of your final product or the alpha prototype, and in the diagram itself, highlight the inventive features. Uniqueness, advantage, economic benefits, that needs to be highlighted. So uniqueness is show how distinctly different it is from the products that are available in the market. Advantage, then how these differences that your product has are creating functional improvement. And finally, how these attributes translate into economic benefit. Quantify the benefits wherever possible. Solutions or inventiveness could be 2 slides. So there is no restriction on slide number. But remember, you have to cover everything in 8 minutes, and you need to know where you're going to emphasize. Solution. If you put it like this, it tells you everything. So you had one, what is available in the market, an image. And now you put it, what is your alpha prototype? And exactly you mention each and every point. that makes it strikingly different from the existing technology, and that's good enough. You don't have to speak much. Working principle or the underpinning technology. Explain the underlying technology, the working principle of the proposed concept in details. What are the points to be highlighted? The safety issue, user-friendly, and affordability of the product. Please provide all details if required. Have it in a glance, at a glance, that they have it, so that they know that you have sufficiently tested, and yes, it can it can go through all the clearances that it needs. All experts sign a non-disclosure agreement. So don't worry. You have already filed a provisional patent and you're ready to disclose what you have here. Preliminary study is very important so that they can corroborate the technical feasibility of the proposed work. Clearly state the stage of the development. You need to clearly spell out that you have done 1, 2, 3 experiments and the results are quite promising and technically feasible. And now to move further from stage A to stage B, you have to do the remaining 4, 5, 6 steps. And that is why you require the big funding. And that is what you're going to do in these 18 months. In short, the committee should not feel that the idea is at nascent stage. Still, many parameters have to be studied. You don't have a clear idea of the roadmap of how you're going to proceed. It is equally dangerous if it seems that the applicant has already done beyond what you can do. And that is why you have to clearly that you're very clear about it, and there is still something to be done, which you're going to do with a big funding. As we mentioned, not much, but a picture perhaps which tells who are they that. And do not spend much time on it. Preferably include the hospital name, the industry names who might collaborate, and the letters if they are there, as we discussed. The novelty, as we said, that needs to be reflected, the feasibility and the IP status, that you have the freedom to operate. That is very important. After that, novelty, as I said, you have to clearly reveal that, because this cannot be a mix and match which leads you into getting a project. Not a big funding can come like that. However, you have to have the novelty and the feasibility clearly explained, as we discussed earlier also. Here, you quantify your parameters, a business model that has to be clearly stated so that the reviewer knows that you know what is that you're trying to follow. So you have to have a clear idea about the target customers, the number, who they are, what is the size, what could be the market potential in terms of your cost of your material and the market size. So what is the revenue you are looking at? You need to know the distribution channel. Through whom are you going to go? From your business to another business. So it's a B2B or a B2C. You're going to go directly to the client. So the distribution channel should be clearly understood. The revenue model, is it a direct sale? Are you going to start with the free samples, and then once people start appreciating, then you go in for a sale? So it depends. Or are you going to go for an advertisement so that people get to know about it? And the revenue stream, where is it going to come forward, so that after you big, how you're going to continue it forward? And then what is the market? That is also very essential that you need to check out. Again, a business model that you have here. I'm sorry, this would not be AMP. This is going to be the GMP, that is the good manufacturing practices. So again, the plan, the fund, the mode, the marketing, the customers, and the product. These are the points that need to be kept in mind when you're going for a presentation. So I'm sure you understand it's not just any R&D project, but this which gives us the freedom to operate, to be responsible, to be able to handle not only the technical, but also the financial aspect. But there is a lot to be added, and a wonderful hand-holding with the big partner that is required for fine-tuning these kind of proposal and executing them as well. The roadmap is something that should be very clear to us, which we have already discussed for the next 4 years. And finally, we come up with the proposal. Now, what was supposed to be done, that I do share how to write that report. Why I spend more time or the most of the time only on getting the grant, be it the grant proposal or the review, is because that is the key place where you have to ensure that you do your best. Thereafter, you're already trained and they have a wonderful format where you do not have the scope of writing more than what precisely they have given. And as you see, these are the progress report that has to be given quarterly. You have a format for the financial report and also for the progress report, clearly mentioning the details that you have to fill up based on the objectives that you had stated, any additional work that you might have done, and whether you have been able to fulfill it or not. If required, as additional, you can put in under the objective you have to write that whether you have done it or not, if required, and if there are significant findings, of course, some of the pictures, some of the data, you put them as annexure. Nothing more than that, and this is exactly what is required. They train us, they tune us how to make it more precise, and it doesn't stop only with the big funding. Once you're part of the big family, it is a long journey, much beyond the scope of the big funding. So when you're going for the review of the funded project, you are providing your progress report, that's fine. But after a stipulated period of time, there is also a review meeting. So what is that you're expected to present in a review meeting is basically the objective when the project was sanctioned and the current status, not more than 2 slides. So here what you have to talk about, the key features, the value proposition, the differentiation from the existing players, what is already available in the market. So current stage of development, where you are. So it's a real-time image that you have to give. Then the next, so this could be 2 slides. Next is milestones, what you had proposed versus the achievement, what you have been able to achieve. Next, the IP status. Then comes the market analysis. Did we look into the market size, the competitivity's landscape as it is today, and what it might be 5 years down the line? So that tells you the shelf life of your product or your process or your technology. And with how many target customers have you discussed your product? How many? And what is their feedback? So at each point, they train you to be an entrepreneur, and that makes a difference. So have you discussed your solution with your business mentor, and what is their feedback? The projected time to hit the market, right? So it is 3 to 5 years, a roadmap that you have to give, a business plan, which includes the target customers and the revenue model, the fund received so far from BIREC for this funding, for this project, and also from non-BIREC funding sources, and the big grant, what you have received versus the expenditure status, and how do you plan to go forward. Here, just a representation of the market discovery, where you actually have to put in for the dairy waste water conversion into biofertilizer, that how many customers or company of wastewater treatment companies or the dairy farms did one talk to, and the fertilizer company or the hydroponics company, how many have one discussed with, and the microfinance people who would actually be financing the farmers who would be getting into organic farming. You also have to keep in mind the key assumptions that you are making, based on which you feel your product is going to work, and the key insights, what makes it, what are the things that are required? Say, for example, need for economically viable technology. It's our assumption that they have a necessity. Need for biofertilizer with yield enhancing ability, and the fertilizer factories with channel partners and farmer. If there is a tie-up, then they can ensure that whatever is generated can directly go to the farmers, and there's a complete utilization of the biofertilizer that is developed. So these are our assumptions that it would be there. Insights, logistics for transportation of the biofertilizer. It's a liquid biofertilizer which is produced in large amount. For every liter of milk processed, there is about 1.5 to 10 liters of wastewater generated. So you can understand the scale of milk that is processed every day. For every liter, if we have 10 liters of wastewater, we are talking about 10 liters of liquid biofertilizer. So the logistics for transportation of the biofertilizer has to be something clearly understood. Would the total volume of biofertilizer be used on the same day? If not, what is the shelf life of the biofertilizer? Because it has to go through multiple channel partners before it reaches from the producer to the consumer. So how long can it be there, maintain its efficiency? And a larger storage area needs to be maintained with the channel partner, or a direct tie-up of the producer with the user. So there are quite a few things that you have to look up into. It is not just a technology that is developed. I would like to thank Dr. Namrata Mishra of KIT TBI for sharing these materials with me, the examples and other things. And of course, the hand-holding that KIT TBI has done all these years with Tripura University, which helps us get a better insight into these kind of grants, which normally as faculty members, we are not aware of. And of course, I'm thankful to MAKAUT, where actually I started working on innovative area, thanks to Professor Shobhushachi Jankupta, who was there, who had the first MOU with Intellectual Venture Invention Network. And that is where the first patenting started. And MAKAUT transferred, it was WBUT then, its first technologies to the industry, the 4 that have been transferred to IVI until now. So thanks to MAKAUT, thanks to Professor Samarza for giving me this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to get back to MAKAUT, and thank you everyone for patiently listening. I'd be happy if there are any questions.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for such a great presentation on assembling peak project reports. Hope our participants, not only the participants, we all have learned many more interesting facts. The aim of this program is promoting new and unique ideas that are market driven and have social impact, like economical and environmental benefits, with potential to reach market within 18 months through setting up of an entrepreneurial venture at ideation stage. You also covered almost each necessary details of writing such proposals. Thank you again for considering us from your busy schedule. Now it's time to take some questions from our participants. So with the permission, ma'am, please, there are 2 questions. May I read all this?
Yeah, please do.
You might want to ask the initiator to ask the question himself or herself with the raised hand. That would be a little bit better.
Okay, sir. Okay. So, Ritesh Hazra, please unmute yourself so you can ask these questions. So, please.
Mr. Ritesh Hazra, please unmute your mic and please ask your questions. Ritesh Hazra. Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, madam, for the wonderful and informative lecture. So I would like to ask you 2 questions. First is regarding the data and statistics that are given with the application for the grant. So is there any need for using references or referencing system like the journals in those applications?
Yeah, I did mention there that you have to have substantial literature given there, which tells that there is actually a gap. So for this gap identification, you have to provide that this is the information available and the scientific information as well as the commercial one. And then based on that, you are going to talk about, but the need of the hour is this. So this is the gap between the two. So references would surely be required there.
Yes, I also mean that like the conventional reference system with the specific format, is that required to
No,
include?
I mean, the format is something you can decide. They are not going to talk about, like a journal, they are not going to tell about what format you have to pick up for referencing. Of course, like any standard document, it will be a uniform format for all the references that you put in.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for clearing this. And I'll move to the second question, that do the reviewers ever like some second chance to any potential applicant for modifying their processes or approach?
Yes, that's what I was saying. That if you get a certain amount of score after the five separate reviewers, they review it. After that 5 review, if you have attained certain amount of score, and then they find a potential in your proposed project, then they are going to send you the reviewers comments. In any case, they are going to send you the reviewers comments, and what is expected is that you address these comments during the TEP, which is the technical evaluation presentation. There you have to address this one. So it depends on how much you are scoring during the second round, that's the screening, that whether you're going to get a second chance or not.
Okay, madam, thanks a lot.
Piggybacking on that question, I would ask you one, madam.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody get, for example, I am rejected once, then can I apply again? Some other
Absolutely.
year, and maybe with the same project or a different project or something along those lines?
Sure, one can. Actually, I was mentioning that we had a presentation of the big awardees, those who have actually completed and gone into forming a startup. And there I came to know I was emphasizing that getting the right big partner makes a lot of difference, because we had 2 awardees from another big partner, and I was astonished to hear that it was the second chance in which they could get. Astonished not because that project was not through, that can always happen, because this tells us the kind of handholding that a big partner does makes a lot of difference. That refining makes a lot of difference, because we are not used to these kind of project writing, because we don't even look at the project from this angle most of the time. So that's the job of a big partner, and that's where the selection makes a lot of difference. Of course, there are many who have got through in the second or the third chance, and that's not a problem. But the problem is, if you get one big once, you are not entitled to apply again in your lifetime. So for that, you have the next level and the next level, but big can be once obtained, cannot be applied again. But if you are not getting it, of course, you have a chance of getting it. But more important, they do not mention it. But what is essential is, please have at least a provisional patent file, because that adds a lot of weight as in terms of the novelty of your technology or the product or the device that you're talking about.
If I'm allowed to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So my question is, like, first of all, fantastic presentation. It was absolutely clear and particularly helpful for people like us who are going into this phase of writing. My question is a bit on more general terms for longer term projects and on a bit more fundamental research. For those kind of grant writing, how important is the timeline division year-wise? For example, I'm applying for a grant which is a 4-year grant or a 5-year grant. How important is a year-by-year division of my plan in writing the project? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be important, not as stringent as in case of a big, but that would be important, because they would need a precise justification why you need a 4 years time for it. So there has to be substantial justification of what you plan to know or do in that time. If at all that time is required, that much of duration is required for this work, and the kind of funding that you are asking for. So that justification is from it's different from this, but of course, it's not as stringent as a big justification for sure, because you do not have, actually, you don't have to be ready to go to the market. So that's why, but that is also required. Less stringent than this, but of course it is required, because then you justify that you understand the problem substantially well, and actually that time is required for completing the work.
Okay.
With the kind of funding that you're asking for.
Okay. Thank you very much. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. There is another question. I request Obhimana Bandyopadhyay, please say the question yourself. Please unmute yourself. Obhimana Bandyopadhyay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yes.
you so much for this very insightful talk on understanding grants. I'm sure this is going to be a very useful reference in the coming years. And my question is, if the novel invention is in the form of a service, can one apply at big, or is it restricted to tangible products alone?
You're talking about invention.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is this? Invention has to have a novelty, a non-obviousness. So a service which is invention, if it falls under the category of invention, of course it would be. But a service and an invention, that is something you have to understand clearly. As long as it has a novelty, it has a commercial value, and it has, potential, something, a novel with commercial value and societal impact, one can of course apply. There are broadly the areas that I talked about.
Yes, ma'am.
Within that, of course, it will.
Ma'am, in one of the slides you mentioned that if it could be segregated into different components, which could be commercialized as distinct entities, if the service can be done in this manner, so I think
service means where is the invention there? Here what we mean is, if, as I said earlier also, that if there is an innovative component, a novel component there,
yes,
of course it could be done. Here service would mean that it's a couple of things are assembled together and that gives a product. Certain times it might happen that other than these products, the components that are used can also find application somewhere else. So that is where we are talking about putting them for other applications as well. Like one of the example I gave, which is slightly different from the one you're asking, but it is that it could be a complete large biotreatment plant processing 1,000 liters of wastewater and treating it and converting it again into a biofertilizer, which a fertilizer farm would be selling. Or it could be small biofertilizer production unit for the household. People are interested in terrace farming or, doing their own small household gardening. That biofertilizer can be produced at home as well. So you can have them a smaller thing. A sweet meat shop, which produces sweets, right?
Yes,
Bengal is known for it. So what do they do with the wastewater? They dump it mostly without treatment into the water bodies, polluting the environment. There is an option whereby they don't really cause this problem, but they have a small unit where they put in this water, keep it for the 16 hours of incubation time, and then actually sell it to a horticulture place or any household as a fertilizer.
Yes.
The farmers, or even the sweet meat shop, they are getting the milk from farmers, right? The milk comes in the drum. After washing and everything, the next day when they again come back, they can actually carry this fertilizer in the drums and take back. And next morning after washing, they get back milk again. So it would be a recycling where you don't waste this huge amount of water, whereas you reuse it, you stop using the fertilizer, and you save the environment, and the fresh water is kept for drinking. So you can think of customizing it for others, or it could be even a large thing which could be assembled as small parts and could be used for other purposes as well. As long as there is an innovative part, there is a commercial value, there's a market, and it adds a lot to the societal benefit as compared to what is available, of course, one can go ahead and apply for it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Jyoti.
Okay. Yeah, that was a wonderful presentation and well articulated. Means I am always mesmerized when you speak. And I just was wondering, like from your experience, what do you suggest? Because see, I have not been into that kind of a research that can have potential product as an endpoint, but I can think of it. So, from your experience and from all these years of your or in this field of microbial technology and allied topics that you have been delving on, how many years or how much time should one actually require to gear up for a big? This is something like, is it really important that I should work for a substantial amount of time and then only I can prove or speak for myself for applying to big, or I can shift from what I have been working?
Absolutely.
And is there a way that I need not have to show that I've been working for substantial time and then only I can apply for it? This is one question that I've been wondering.
Even a beginner can apply for it. The question is whether we have a solution ready. Like if you remember when you had come over to Tripura University for the meeting and we were talking about C. elegans being used as a biosensor for checking the environmental pollutant level, that exactly
Yes.
could be the product that you're talking about. Minor experiments properly designed, which you test, and then you say, okay, I'm ready with the testing system, and this is what I want to take further. It
Exactly.
is identifying the problem. You don't need the years of work. Identifying the problem which has a market potential, look into the novelty which people have not done, and that's exactly what is required. And these points that we were talking about, the moment you tie up with the right big partner, they would frame your proposal, not frame your proposal, you have to frame it yourself. They fine tune it and make it ready for this. And that's all that is required. And more important, it gives us the freedom to handle, gives us the freedom to do scientific work. That makes a lot of difference.
Exactly. So another question, like since you have been in this field for quite some time, other than GBT announcing the areas into which one can look for these big projects, means there must be some areas that they would like the researchers to cover. Are there any ways to find out the problems in the society with which one can start planning? Means how can a beginner who would want to go for a startup in the later stages, but at least get a funding such as big, and think that this could be one kind of project which I think that it is promising, but is not getting the information. Where can somebody look out for the problems? Then the solution is with we will come out with a solution. But where will somebody look out for problems?
Now,
Is it the
yeah?
Yeah?
Please complete.
Yeah. So the problems in the sense that which would actually define the project, means that is the thing. The project or the proposal is the problem itself. That is the problem with which we are going to create or devise this proposal, for which if it is attractive and if it seems feasible and more product oriented and absolutely beneficial to the society, then big will be funded. But where will someone look out for the problems? This is the question.
Okay, so here I would be again going back to what you said, that I was ready to pick up any project that was given and I was not scared. The reason was my understanding was very clear that I need a funding in order to ensure that I can have a lab that is moving. Here, it would be also if I want to form a startup. So now, there are certain areas in which they normally fund. And then I know what are my what is my area of expertise. Now I would try to identify through different literature survey, through more than literature survey in papers, this would be, the news articles and other places where I have to look for what are the problems which fit in with their area and my expertise. I identify them. Once I have identified a couple of them, then I go ahead with the scientific understanding of what solutions are already available, what technologies are already available, and then couple them together like a jigsaw puzzle, and I identify, so this is the missing gap which has not been addressed, or the requirement for the dairy industry. Say for example, they have a system which consumes huge amount of energy, uses large land, so it's very expensive. The larger dairy can afford to have these technology. The smaller and the middle scale, they find it crippling to adopt them. So what we need is a economically viable, rapid system which would require less energy, cause less pollution, and preferably if it can convert the entire waste into a value added product, where instead of spending on the effluent treatment plant maintenance, they start earning the revenue. So that is how one would couple based on broad areas, then deciding on what are the drawbacks in that particular sector, how microbes could get into picture. Since we work with microbes and started with biodiversity screening, then we knew for dairy industry, how did we come into that? We figured out that actually what are the pollutants in the dairy wastewater which needs to be treated, and what is the existing system. For each liter, each liter of milk process, there is 10 liter of water. Now there is a water crisis. We can couple it with it. What are the components, pollutants that are there? How they can be converted into something that can be used, perhaps for plant growth. That's the easiest way to use it. Then the microbes that we had in the lab, we tried to check for how the nitrogenous component could be converted to ammonia, so that the plants have ammonia that can be easily picked up. They don't need the rhizobium to, rhizospheric microbes to do that. So they can pick it up well. We picked up microbes which could restrict the ammonia in the root zone so that it doesn't leach out further. For that, we had to have a proper transcriptome analysis, in certain places the metagenomic analysis, and also the draft genome analysis of the organisms that we used for a consortium development. But that was our expertise which we already had. So first, look into the area, the burning issues, or the area in which people are looking for solution. Then do a survey of what are the missing links, what is already available, what are the problem there, and from there, based on one's expertise, one goes and designs the issue. Like we did for the municipal wastewater treatment. That's again a 240 hours process, which we could get down to 2 hours of treatment, where the nitrate was accumulated, phosphate was accumulated, COD, BOD came down, and now the water was reusable for agriculture, while we required much less time, no energy, which you mentioned in 2014 from MAKAUT it was done. So that's exactly how we designed the problem.
So that means, as you mentioned towards the end, that there should be a patent before we apply for a big.
It is preferred. Oh, they do not mention it quote within quote, but what has been seen that a provisional patent is good enough. That is, you have a preliminary data based on which you file a provisional patent that proves that there's a novelty, right? Because normally when one is investing for a patent, one would have done the patent search and then applied for one. So that's one indication that it is something which is novel, patentable. It helps. It's not mandatory. Nowhere it is written, but what I have seen that helps a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Do I get a chance to ask a couple of things, ma'am?
Sure, sir.
I know we are getting close to 4:30, so please answer briefly. Just, I presume there is no age bar. Is there any age limit?
No.
Okay. The second one is something similar to what Joya madam asked. Are there catalogs of problems somewhere curated by, maybe these are the thrust areas periodically published by that ministry, this whatever?
Yes.
So if you can spell it out.
Right. I forgot to mention this when Dr. Bandyopadhyay asked. AICTE, through now it is, and even MHRD, now it is MOE. So when they organize these hackathons, they have series of problems that they have put up. mostly in the Institutional Innovation Council. MAKAUT also has one, because I know I'm there from Tripura University side. So there for the hackathon, they have series of problems which the industry have posed, for which the government are giving grants. So one could even look into those catalogs, which gives us what I was mentioning to Dr. Bandapadhyay, that you have to look from the local dailies or newspaper, that what are the burning issues. Some of them are also documented here. It is there. I've missed out that. It is of course there. So you could look into those, the hackathon announcements, and there you have series of problems that have been mentioned there. But in addition to that, also there are others.
The other question is, very briefly, rather than big as a noun, big as an adjective. So you have done many big projects as an adjective. Just very briefly, if you could share how to write the reports of such projects, because from my experience, writing reports, not much in India, I must say, but the NSF projects and NIH, that sort of projects there in the US, those project reports were no less than like a thesis. So about around this environment, I'm not really qualified to comment much, I think. So if you could.
So I'm not qualified to comment about that environment, but I can tell you about this. In India, what I have dealt with is the ICAR or the BRNS or the DBT, DST, PCB, WPPCB, and all these. Or now the BIRAC ones that is there. Here, usually they have a precise format, and what is required is that you put the main focus based on what was proposed versus what is the deliverable, and you put in the main point. Often what we tend to do is put in a lot of more information than actually required, and that makes it diffused. So here we have to be too precise, to the point, and if necessary, there are options wherein we can put in the annexure information of what has been done. In the executive summary as well, like when we were discussing, when you talked about this FDP, we have to know precisely the key features that are the key outcomes of this, which makes this project significant or different, or the information that it adds, this project after its completion, as compared to what was already available prior to this project being executed. So for each granting agency, there is a format given, and we need to know, like we were discussing for this, that how much to emphasize for each point, so that your precise deliverable is reflected, what was proposed versus what you've achieved, and the additional part if there's something.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. Just came into my mind now, that the scientific part is one aspect, and the product is an outcome of the scientific research. So I know that when we are going for product-oriented research, the scientific part which gets published, or which is to get published, how much is the regulation on that aspect? I know that the scientific part's outcome is the product, but if I have to publish on the scientific aspect, which is also a component of the product, will I be barred from sending out the publication, or no. I can go ahead?
You can go ahead, right? As long as you have filed the patent. If it is patentable, first go ahead and file the patent, at least the provisional one, and then go ahead and publish it. Because the moment, not only publish it, even if you talk about it in a seminar or a presentation, it's gone. Even if it's a
absolutely
review, please go ahead and get a non-disclosure thing signed with the examiners before he or she can go. If you remember, even in one of our students had been sent to that time, initially we started, many were being sent to company, and they could actually present nothing for the MTech project report because they were barred by the company. So what that is required is a non-disclosure agreement signed, so that thereafter it could be done. But better go ahead with the provisional filing, and then just feel free to go ahead with all this. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you, madam. if anyone has any question, so please raise your hand. Participants, please.
I think people have exhausted their questions pretty much.
Or they are exhausted themselves, whichever.
No, no. It was a wonderful session. Wonderful
Seriously.
session.
Absolutely. It was quite comprehensive.
Yeah.
Very informative also. So thank you, madam. Now I am requesting our director of School of Natural, Applied and Social Science, Professor Dr. Shukrendu Shamazu sir. So please say a few words on this topic. Sir, please.
Uh, well, there is little more to say at this point, but other than thanking Professor Raichaudhuri for such a comprehensive one. What I would give my personal feeling about it, and I having been in the US for a while, I have a tendency of using a little bit of certain words which are perhaps not very aristocratic, but they convey. So your approach, your no-nonsense approach is something which is very, very important.
Thank you, sir.
This is you conveyed within the stipulated or self-imposed time duration so much of information and they were so well ordered. So this comprehensiveness, why to me it is important, because that was the closest way of conveying how demanding and how dense and what rigorous work is required for applying and getting and completing big projects. So it is many of us, okay, we have a good time at conferences, etc., ask a few questions which are not kind of superficial, etc. But this is your presentation brought home to all of us that this is no, I mean, if one gets into it, one has to get into it with all heart and soul and prepared to give the best. So thank you very much for giving your best.
Thank you so much. Just before you end, one thing, though it's not conventional, that we have a webinar coming up on 7th, for which I've shared already the flyer with many of you. Please join in so that you know Northeast also has quite a few things to offer as far as science and technology is concerned. So you are all welcome to join there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now I am requesting Dr. Radha Vallabh Bhar sir, our head of the department of our applied science department. So please sir, give the vote of thanks for this session.
Thank you. Thank you, Nisha, for giving me a chance to give vote of thanks to Professor Raichaudhuri. I am very happy to be over here and hear some part of the total lecture actually. But from where I started, from there I have got the total sense. How much and how informative, how excellently she presented all the things from starting to finishing, means project writing from starting day to progress report, how to submit it, how to patent it. And main key points, he has mentioned more emphasis way, how they can take it home for writing their own project. I think after this lecture or this talk, many of our participants will feel very enthusiastic and energetic to write some project, whether it is big or fundamental or any from their own way. I think that will be our success of Professor Rai Chaudhuri. So say how many project is generated after getting or hearing this talk. That is very important to us. So very important to Professor Rai Chaudhuri also as well. So he has started say from the very beginning. He outcome, feasibility, novelty, and so all area he has covered. And not only that, she has also mentioned the thrust area. I have also seen in my life that in DST, particularly major funding part of what they're contributing in throughout the long years, that say in 80s, superconducting material development, some thrust area was declared. And at that time, all the pupils started to go rush towards that direction. The superconducting, how to generate superconducting material, whether it is metallurgist, whether it is material science, whether physical science, whatever maybe, all the people rushing towards that direction. After that, I have seen this declared some area diamond-like material. So all the people starting towards that direction, how to develop diamond from carbon. So these are the things every time is going on. And DBT also giving some opportunity to give some area of project. Particularly now emphasis is not for the fundamental, but what delivery you can give. So that emphasis is also given by Professor Rai Chaudhuri, that what delivery, how we can give delivery, how we can commercialize, how we can deliver it to the society, how society problem of the society we can deliver, how agricultural problem we can solve from that grant. So these are the areas which is to be covered, keeping in mind that we have several problems and we have to sort it out by, in some cases, innovation, some area, some modification of the different techniques or implementation of different techniques. That is also very important in some cases. So she has covered all the area. Many thanks to Professor Rai Chaudhuri for coming over here on behalf of our school of Natural, Applied and Social Sciences, school, our university, on behalf of all the members of the MAKAUT. So we are very happy and got good amount of knowledge from Professor Rai Chaudhuri, and I think our participants benefited a lot. And so I want to give my thanks, heartfelt thanks to you. Though I have a small interaction with you in some other program, in some other forum, actually. Yes, EMSI. So from that, he was known to me. So that way you are known to me, and I have getting this chance or to convey my thanks to you. I should give this. I have utilized this opportunity to give you thanks on behalf of me, on behalf of MAKAUT. So thank you on behalf of all of us, and thanks to the other members of the panel, and also I thanks to the technical team. Though only their help, we have organized this program in such a nice way or continuous way, because there is a possibility of some network problem all the time, particularly in area with different, because there are good number of participants in different area of all over the India. So but all of them, I think, interrupt free program they have listened because of our technical people. So we must give our thanks to them, and thanks to the all people and university for their funding, and TechWeave and other collaborative institute also. So with all, thanking you all again, and with this I am closing my vote of thanks. Now I want to transfer it to the Annesa. Thank you, Annesa.
Welcome, sir. Also, thank you all the resource person present here, Dr. Shaun Rai Chaudhuri Madam, Director Professor Dr. Shamas sir, Dr. Joya Bandyopadhyay Madam, Dr. Radha Vallabh sir, Dr. Mukherjee sir, Sushanta Pal sir, Shashwata sir, Gaurav sir, Shuday Mr. sir, thank you to all. And also on behalf of our university, I would like to thank our participants. Till then, please join our next session. Tomorrow is the last session. So please join this. And till then, thank you and good night. Stay safe. This is at the end of the session.